We have gone through almost every position at Ohio State, discussing who the best players at each position have been over the past 20 years. Today, it's all about the players in the secondary, the DBs at Ohio State. I saw an article that said Ohio State is DBU. Well, who from DBU in the Big Ten Conference is the best defensive back at Ohio State over the past 20 years? Cory Thompson is with me to discuss just that. You don't want to miss this fun episode of Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, August 12th in the year 2022, and today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Here with us once again, wrapping up our drafts of the best Ohio State players over the past 20 years. It is Cory Thompson from Ohio State Football with Scarlet and Great on the YouTube. Cory, you requested the defensive backs, and you're back to talk about this really talented group.
Absolutely, man. Ohio State is DBU, BIA. Don't get it wrong.
No, don't get it wrong. Don't change it. This list on my notebook is littered with really talented players, and I'm excited for today's draft. But Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles recently had some comments about the rotations or potential rotations at every position group at Ohio State in 2022. And Cory, before we get to this draft, I'm curious if you saw what Jim Knowles had to say about how there could be 8 to 10 guys rotating on the D line, that the linebacker and secondary rotations will be a lot tighter than they were a year ago. Cory, did you read those comments? And if so, I just shared them for you, so I'm sure you can quickly formulate an opinion about what the new defensive coordinator had to say.
I did see them earlier, and I have to say, so far, so great with Jimmy Knowles. Everything you hear about camp or how the defense is picking it up quickly, they're flying around the ball, to him saying we should be a top 5 defense instead of a top 10 defense. I love that comment. I love that dog in him. And I love the fact that he's talking about, you know what, we all said it, Jay. You said it. I said it. Everybody said it. Anybody with a brain said it last year. The rotation was too big. You can't get in the flow of the game that way. Defensive line makes sense. He said the defensive line, 8 to 10 guys, right? That makes sense. You got to keep those big guys fresh. Linebackers and defensive backs, you need to kind of stick with the guys who are in the flow of the game. You can't rotate 400 linebackers in and out of the game and expect there to be continuity. And he said what we were all thinking, because Jimmy Knowles is a Cornell grad, a genius defensive coordinator, and an all-around scholar. And just because he agreed with us. But, he was, I love the fact that he brought that up. It's all, what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Jeff Hafley in 19 when he got his first press conference. He says, we are teaching them to turn their head around because we were all screaming about the corners not turning their heads around. And he said, yes, we're teaching that. There's some areas in the field you don't teach that, like the middle of the field, because then they could lose the receiver. But on the sidelines, when they have that sideline help, yes, we teach them to turn their heads around. So I love it, because the fact that he brought that up, knowing the fans are screaming about it. Jimmy Knowles bringing this up. I'm sure he was asked the question. I never saw the question asked to him, but I'm sure he was asked, and he actually addressed it. So, yeah, I think it's ridiculous to rotate 100 linebackers and 100 DBs. I mean, as much as you want all the young guys to play, you want your best of the best in the back seven.
You do. You do want your best of the best. And I know there were comments in the YouTube comment chat from this podcast last year and people that I'm personal friends with that told me to get off, to just be quiet. And I'm like, guys, this is not football. There were former players on Twitter that were complaining about the same things Cory and I were they had the same complaints Cory and I had about last year's team, saying, why in the world are so many guys playing? It's hard to get into a flow. And then I even heard Joshua Perry say on a podcast, he's like, there were numerous games during 2014 where we played 100+ snaps, and it was expected of us to be on the field. It was expected of us to not think my backup's going to come in and play for me. It's expected of us, because I'm a starter at Ohio State, to be conditioned to play the long haul. Now, maybe 100 snaps may be an exaggeration, but they were on the field a lot. I don't remember ever at Ohio State seeing rotations like that ever. So I'm glad that Jim Knowles is is doing what I think a defensive coordinator should do, is keep the rotations the proper way. Because honestly, you never know what's going to happen when you have your best 11 or best 15 or best 16 players playing in a proper rotation consistently. Didn't see it last year. Would the Buckeyes have beaten Oregon or Michigan last year? I don't know. That's up for speculation. But I'm like you. I love what I have heard from Jim Knowles so far this offseason.
I'll tell you one thing. If rotation were the only thing wrong with Kerry Combs' defense, that would have been nice. So I don't know if we would have beaten Oregon or Michigan with that defense. But I agree with you. Jimmy Knowles has passed on the eye test so far. I love the fact that he said Steele Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg are solidifying the linebacker position for us because of the fact that, last year, if you go out into fall camp, we're halfway through fall camp or whatever it is, maybe not even halfway, maybe a third of the way. If you go through fall camp, you don't know who your guys are, you failed somehow.
Yeah, big time.
So, and the fact that he's already like, I think we got our guys. I know people are screaming, Tommy Eichenberg, no. Tommy finished strong last year. Let's see what he does with the new staff, Jimmy's not a dummy. He's not going to play somebody. He's not married to the guys who are on the team. He's not going to play somebody who can't play. Let him. If Tommy's doing it and filling those shoes and filling that role, I should say, and doing a great job, give him a chance.
Yeah, I agree. Enough about this year's team. Cory and I could do a lot of shows about this year's football team preparing for what's to come in 2022. Today's show is all about the best Ohio State defensive backs over the past 20 years. Cory's excited, and I told Cory this before the show. As I was putting my list together, it's hard to figure out who the number one guy is or even in drafting them. I'm going to do a little personality and stuff like that into mind, guys that I like for how they played. Because going back from Chris Gamble, Dustin Fox, Mike Doss, Ashton Yabudi, all the way through to Bradley Roby, Garyon Conley, Okuda, Ward, Arnett. Dude, this is insane about how much talent is at this one unit, not under one coach, but under really four coach. Well, three, but Fickle was a probation year. But under those amount of coaches over this amount of time, it's insane how much talent Ohio State has had at corner and at safety.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing, dude. I love it. I love this position for Ohio State, and we need to get it back. I think it starts this year we start getting that back because I do think Cam Brown, if he can stay healthy, is that dude. I think he's a great player. I love Denzel Burke, obviously a great player. I love what they got behind him in Hancock. I know he's a little injured right now, but he'll be fine. And Ja'Kalen Johnson and guys like that. Johnson Dunn, watch out for him. He's going to be a nice player coming up. We got dogs coming up, and don't worry about it. So we're going to continue this BIA, and I love Watson and Eliano as a tandem. So I think that's a great coaching tandem. So we're good.
So far, so good. This draft, this is the last week of it. If you're a newcomer, there are 3 rounds in the draft. Cory's the first, since he's the guest, he gets the first pick. It's a snake draft as well, so many of you that do fantasy football, it's that same style of draft. And the 4th pick, it's not really a 4th pick in the draft. The 4th player that either of us pick, it could be the same player. As I ask Cory, and I also answer who would be my next pick in the draft. Cory, with the first pick in our best defensive back draft over the past 20 years, who you got?
Malik Hooker, number 1.
I'm mad you took my first pick, man. I don't like you anymore. We should end the show now and just cut it off.
Hey, I'm picking off everybody right now, so it's just par for the course.
Malik Hooker,
I gotta have that free safety. I gotta have that free safety who can cover the range of the field and take away your deep ball. So,
man, I was hoping to kind of get him a little bit later, but of course Cory goes with the goods right now. Second pick in this draft, as Cory took my first guy. I'm going to go with Okuda. You want to go with the free safety? I want to go with the lockdown corner right away. I do like how Okuda really, not just in the stats, but outside of that, you weren't going to test him. And I really think that at that position, at that corner, old defense or this new defense, I do think you need that guy who can be a shutdown corner for you there. So the first pick for me in the first round of this draft is Jeffrey Okuda. Second pick.
Did you hear he's killing it in Lions camp right now?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him.
Okay, I'm not trying to piss people off. Did you see Hutchinson do his little dance in front of the
Billy
players?
Dean,
yeah.
Billy.
I was pretty impressed with that.
You know what? I think it's cool. I mean, I know where he's from, but I think it's cool. He probably won a lot of kudos with the team on that one, so good for him. I mean, that takes guts to go up there and just embarrass yourself that way.
It does. I saw one player also did. I didn't watch Hard Knocks, but I saw one player did opera. It was a lineman. I think an offensive lineman saying opera, and he was like impressive. I was like, dude, you are insane. Back to the draft, though. Yeah, really good. First pick in the second round of this draft, as Cory took the guy I really wanted to take.
Please don't take my guy.
Let's go with Denzel Ward. I wasn't planning on going this route this early, but since you took Hooker, I have to take somebody else that I think Cory's going to take really, really soon. I think one of the best things to me, and of course, that Gus Johnson call when Denzel Ward just obliterates the receiver. I forget I think they were playing Maryland. I forget who the opponent was, but another solid player. And I think
he's more than solid.
Solid on the outside. Yeah, way better than solid. And I also want to give him some kudos because he's transitioned that into the NFL, and that's an easy way for you to rise up my board. So Okuda and Ward, first back-to-back picks for me. Cory, we're moving pretty quickly here. I've kind of given you, I mean, there's so many guys listed here, but I kind of given you a lot of freedom as I've taken another guy you wanted to kind of really take somebody else off my board that I really want to take.
Marshawn Lattimore, my friend.
Okay, guys. I was given a text and somebody said, are you sure you want to have Cory on the show? I said, yeah, of course. Like, I like Cory. But I think this might be the last time Cory comes on because with Hooker and Lattimore, his 2 picks, and he gets the next pick as well. I just think Cory and I, not just being friends, but him being on the podcast, this might be it because I'm tired of this, Cory. I don't like it.
That's fair. Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore, also Defensive Rookie of the Year and is a shutdown corner with the Saints. I have the NFL pedigree. I got the college pedigree. Marshawn and Malik, man, are my guys. And you're not going deep on us. That's for sure.
Wow. So I want to do something here quickly before we get to the third round. Just trying to prolong this conversation. We have an Urban Meyer guy. I think Okuda was an Urban Meyer guy as well.
Yes, he was technically. Well, he flourished with Halfley with Ryan Day in 19,
yes.
but he was recruited by Schiano and Meyer. Yes.
So we got Urban, we got Urban. All 4 guys there.
Urban set the standard, man.
Do you think the toughness that he brought to the team, Urban Meyer, that is kind of was picked up by the defensive backs? Because we think about Hooker, we think about Okuda and Ward. This position is not really known for physicality. But I talked about recently on the show how there was a level of toughness at every position when Urban was here. And I think we kind of see with this unit so far, was there's one more round to go, 2 more picks to go in this draft, that toughness that I would love to see Ryan Day's team pick up consistently. This unit really solidified how tough you need to be at this position, and they really picked up that trait from their head coach.
Yeah, Okuda especially stopping the run on the edge there, he was brilliant at it. He would slip. Denzel Ward's great at slipping blocks and stopping it. I mean, it's the toughness is there, the physicality is there. They'll fight you on the edge. They'll take on the run, and on top of that, they'll get you at the line of scrimmage as a wide receiver trying to get out, and they'll be physical with you all the way down. So, absolutely, I love how what we brought. And there's so many good names I'm thinking about trying to go to the next round, and I'm like, oh, geez, who do I go with? So you got me in a whirlwind here because there's so many good ones. There's 2 that I'm fighting with in my mind about right now. So
you're doing all this off of memory? I'm sitting here with a notebook and paper and pen and some stats. I don't know how you do it off of memory because there's so much that's happened in not just at Ohio State football, but also in our lives over this span. Yeah. I mean, kudos to you, and I'm really impressed that your memory is so strong that you can do all this from memory.
I don't know. That might not be a good thing. Maybe my brain's too filled with Buckeye stuff and none of other important stuff. I'm going to go ahead and make my next pick real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going with the playmaker, the clutch playmaker, national title winning Chris Gamble as my other corner.
When you said national championship winner, I thought you were going with an All-American who wore number 2, not Gamble.
You know what? I love Doss. I got another safety ahead of him, even a Hooker and somebody else ahead of him.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, you see, my love for Doss, and I'm going to make my next pick here very quickly. My love for Doss kind of went deeper than Ohio State because the Indianapolis Colts did draft him. Yeah. Unfortunately, there was an injury which really shortened a career that I thought was going to be at least 5 to 6, 7 years in the NFL.
I thought he was 10 years in the NFL but he was ahead of his time. He'd have been a great box safety.
Yeah.
He just was not a great coverage safety, unfortunately. So
No.
not to knock him. I love Dawson. I'm not trying to knock him. He's a 3-time All-American. You can't cry about that. But he probably would have been great in today's defensive style.
Yeah, I think so. And that's mainly why, because there's a guy, Quinn Pitcock, another one that was out of Ohio State, went to the Colts. Anthony Gonzalez, out of Ohio State, went to the Colts. Yes,
yeah, Gonzalez is sad, tearing up his ACL. He would have been a nice receiver for Peyton, man.
Man. Peyton had some dogs, and I was really hoping that Gonzalez could have been another one. So with my next pick, I'm going to go with somebody that has not been mentioned yet. He's been on this podcast, and so if you guys have been listening to the podcast since I've been the host for quite a long time, you will know who we had on the show last year, the week of the Michigan game. It's Tybus Powell. Now, I'm taking Powell simply for multiple reasons. Great on the field, great guy, but it's humor. I need that kind of guy, the humor, the talkative guy. I need him in my locker room.
He's a leader.
Exactly. And so with me having Okuda and Ward, I want Tybus Powell to be my safety. I want him here. And I think you kind of need that guy, especially with that unit when
you just took him over Dawes. You're just talking to me about Dawes. You just took Tybus Powell over Mike Dawes.
Personality, man. Personality. I need it. Dawes was there. Dawes was high on mine, but I got to go with Tybus Powell. I couldn't pass him up.
I hear you. I get it, man. I love Tybus, man. I mean, I've never talked to him. I know you've had the privilege of talking to him. He probably won't come on my podcast now, but I think he's great. So I do have a lot of admiration for Tybus. So.
If you do a show with him, ask him why he ran out of the end zone against Alabama in the semifinal game.
I do remember you talking to him about that.
Yes,
I remember you talking to him.
I'm telling you, if you. I told my buddy before that interview, I said, I want to ask him the first question. It's going to be about why he ran out of the end zone against Alabama at the end of the game in the semifinal round of the playoff. And he's like, are you sure you're going to do that, man? Are you bold? I'm like, look, there's no better way to break the ice than to go out. And that was very bold. Don't get me wrong, because that could have really been a downer. But I've heard him talk about that before. Plus, we won the game. So it was kind of like, let's have some fun.
To him, it's probably funny now. I mean, it's just like, it's just a story. Yeah, it's a story now. I mean, I think it's funny Darren Lee threatened to tackle him. So
I love this team, man. Corey, who would have been your next pick in this draft if there were 4 rounds?
I'm going to go another safety. I'm getting the criminally underrated Jordan Fuller is my other safety. Because he can play the box, he can play in a slot, he can play anywhere in the he can play the free safety, he can do anything. Him and Malik Hooker would have been a nasty combination at safety. Jordan, man, I feel so horrible that he was a 6th-round pick. He is not a 6th-round pick. That dude is a day 1 or 2 pick. And the Rams, he's proven it for the Rams. And he was so vital to our 2019 defensive resurgence. He was the most underrated player on that entire team. Not just the defense, on that entire team. And I didn't fully appreciate it at the time. I admit that. But as the years wane on and we have defensive and safety struggles, you're like, man, Jordan was a dog. And I miss him. And I just want him to have the most success. I hope he heals from his injury and has the most success. Has the most successful career. But him and Hooker with Gamble and Marshawn, I think I'm pretty good in the secondary.
My next guy is going to be Mike Doss. I really can't believe I waited till the 4th pick, which really isn't a part of the draft, to take Mike Doss. But you said it so well. 3-time All-American, a pivotal part of the national championship team. Caught an interception in that game as well. A very pivotal in a game that's so close and so when every play, every second matters. When you get an interception and you make a turnover in that moment, I think that really reigns true and really speaks volumes about you and you being a playmaker. Mike Doss, I really can't believe I didn't take him over Tybus Powell, but I wanted that personality in my locker room, and Tybus Powell brings that. Corey,
well, we don't win the title without Mike Doss coming back.
No, we don't, not at all. Corey, I do believe there is a scrimmage at practice, Ohio State practice over the weekend. I believe I saw a tweet or two about that. What are some things I didn't ask you about this pre-show, which I apologize, but I know you're game for it. Yeah, shame on me for not doing my job properly. Corey, what are some things you're looking forward to hearing about from Ohio State's first scrimmage as a team?
Okay, I'll start with the offense. I already know the receivers are great. I already know Henderson and the running backs are great. I know CJ is great. I want to hear about how the offensive line holds up.
Yeah.
I really do want to hear it because I understand Paris had a couple of rough days there with Jack Sawyer, but it's Jack Sawyer, it's baby Bosa. I mean, it's like, come on. And Paris is just transitioning back to left tackle. But and look, I'm not knocking Paris. I think he's going to be great. I'm totally on the Paris Johnson train, but we do have to acknowledge it's going to take him a minute.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want people to panic about that. But in his first game out of the gate is Notre Dame. You got to be on point. So, offensive line, I'd like to hear how they'll hold up. I saw some clips today. Zach Smith showed a couple actually where the defensive line show. I want to see how the defense attacks because the defensive line already looks like they're attacking that line of scrimmage much more than they have in the last 2 years. I want to hear how the defense challenges what's going to be a prolific offense. We all know the offense is going to be great. We're not even worried about the offense. It's going to be great. How does this defense, with limited cornerbacks, by the way, because they're having a little bit depth issues at corners right now, how do they challenge the offense? They make it difficult for them? That's what I want to know. Is it a challenge for the offense to move the ball? And I am so confident this offense is going to be great because usually it's like team versus team. Who cares? You don't know who's good or who's bad. But we know this offense is going to be so great that if our defense is challenging the offense and making it hard for them to move the ball, then we can get excited, in my opinion, about where the defense is headed. And that's what I want to hear. How do they attack the line of scrimmage? Because last couple of years, we were weak on the line of scrimmage. I don't mean we had weak players. I think the scheme was not there, and for what the talent we had to attack. We didn't have an attacking defense the last couple of years.
No.
This is the most exciting thing about Jim Knowles. That dude is attack. Even if you get burned once in a while, I'd rather get burned once in a while throwing haymakers than just sitting back and letting them pick you apart. So I can't wait to hear how the defense attacks the offense.
The one thing I wish we could see, which I know we're not going to see a lot of in said scrimmage, is how the team is tackling. I do believe that tackling will be better. I think that's one. So as much as I complained about the rotations last year on defense, I didn't complain enough about how poorly this team was at tackling the guys with the football. You've been doing this since you were a kid. Now, granted, your technique's supposed to be refined, to get fine-tuned, to be better as you get older. I don't know what it is, Corey, but it seemed like the tackling was poor. Like people hadn't learned how to tackle at all. So you're looking for a few things. I'm really curious, though. On offense, I'm looking at the tackles. Hearing DeJuan Jones has lost weight once again. I'm also hearing that the weight on the roster is not the actual weight. Surprise, surprise. But DeJuan Jones has lost weight. I've heard he looks the best that he's ever looked physically while at Ohio State. Paris Johnson going to left tackle for the first time consistently at Ohio State. I'm looking at those two guys. I think it was Burns' podcast he does with Austin Ward and Bill Landis, where they're talking about the D-line, starting D-line, at least at one practice, where Harrison was not there, Jean-Baptiste was not there, Cage was not there, and I think it's Teron Vincent. I think he may be gone. I forget who the other fourth guy was. But
he transferred, or is he just not in?
No. They just weren't starting. They just weren't on the unit at that time. They hadn't transferred. No, but I believe it was Sawyer, Tuamaloau, Tyleik Williams, and I want to say Ty Hamilton were the four starting D lines.
Hamilton was in there, yeah,
during this drill. And so I know that that's going to be a different look for everybody, but I really want to see how these two tackles hold up. DeJuan Jones, 1 full year starting at right tackle. Paris Johnson, a lot of hype. Some say he's going to be a first-round pick. I want to see it. Like, I need to see it before I say you're going to be a first-round pick.
He has the ability. We know that much.
He does. So I'm watching the tackles. How does Jones look with his less weight? How does Paris Johnson look at left tackle? That's where if I were a fly or just a bird flying around that just hovered over Ohio Stadium or wherever the scrimmage is, I would be looking at those two guys on the outside of the O-line, focusing on them. And then secondarily, if there is tackling, not sure. Are we tackling like we're in second grade and we don't know how we're able to tackle, or are we tackling like guys that are defense at Ohio State? So those are my kind of things I'll be looking forward to. I'm just glad to see ball, man. Football is almost here, and I can't wait to watch football every single weekend.
And I do want to bring it back to your draft real quick. One name I want to mention, because I didn't get to draft him, but I was almost going to take him over Chris Gamble, is Malcolm Jenkins. I was so close to taking Malcolm Jenkins. I was like, I don't know which one, but I get Gamble. I have to take the playmaking ability of Chris Gamble. That was my big thing. But whatever. I just want to put that in there. I don't want to forget Malcolm Jenkins.
No, you can't. I wrote
borderline Hall of Famer. So.
Might be, man. Might
Yeah.
be. Cory, I love having you on. No matter what the haters might say or people on the Bird app might say, I love having you on. Your humor is
Appreciate
always
that, bro.
appreciated here on Locked On Buckeyes. If you could, Cory, let everyone know where they can follow you on Twitter so they can catch some of that humor, and then where they can catch your podcast on the YouTube as well.
Well, guys, you can stay away from my Twitter for a while. No, it's at Scarlet Great CT on Twitter. I don't care if you want to come call me an idiot. To have fun with it. And also Ohio State Football with Scarlet and Great on YouTube. Check us out. Do the search engine and the YouTube. Our humor's not for everybody. I'll admit that up front, but I think you'll have a good time.
And guys, you can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. Be looking out for another episode coming out today, discussing some things Jim Knowles said on the Big Ten Network and sharing some things we should expect to look forward to and some of my thoughts about Ohio State scrimmage over the weekend of fall camp. It's Friday. I am excited. Great weekend ahead. And I am happy that Cory's here. I'm happy for football season almost being here. Getting ready to watch some high school football literally a week from today. That's my preview, and that gets me a little amped up for the college football season, which follows, which starts 2 weeks from this upcoming weekend. I'm done. Talked enough. Guys, have a great day.